you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, I will dry them all. I'm on your side. Oh, when darkness comes and pain is all around, like a bridge over troubled water, I will lay me down. Sail on, silver soul, sail on by. Your time has come at last. All your dreams are on your way. See how they shine. Oh, if you need a friend, I'm sailing right behind, like a bridge over troubled water. I will lay me down, like a bridge over troubled water. I will lay me down.
Someone who I've known for a number of years to do the lecture today. Reverend Diane Schmidt has spoken here once before and did a wonderful lecture then. Gave us jelly beans at the time, which was nice. And gave a lecture based on the color of jelly bean that you might be drawn to, as well as a spiritual lesson with it. She is a ordained minister of the IGAS, which is the International General Assembly of Spiritualists. They were a breakaway association of the National Spiritualist Association of Churches. She is currently a doctoral candidate at the University of Metaphysics, and she is a permitted reader and healer with the Cassadaga Spiritualist Camp Organization and the associate pastor. So please welcome Reverend Diane Schmidt.
What a joy it is to be here. I was here when you received your charter, and it's a delight to again serve Steve, who was one of my first teachers. And Nanny, I'm so thrilled to be here in your new building. The young man, Dr. Thomas, who ordained me, I'm glad to see you here. And of course, my butterfly workshop friend, Reverend Bob Johnson. It's good to see all of you. And Kathy, it's nice to see you too. What's so rare is a beautiful day in December, isn't it wonderful? To you and to you and to you. Today you're about to enter into the greatest experience of your life. Yeah. You're going to have great joy in doing this. And you're going to receive untold joy. You're going to leave affirmated. I didn't make up that word. It's a word. It's in the dictionary. Affirmated. There is a power within man that is greater than he himself. And there's goodness, and there's rightness, and there's greatness, and there's honesty, integrity, and there's healing power. He didn't put it there, no man put it there, no did we create this power, but we can use it. Yes, it is there. It gives reason for living. It gives purpose for living. It gives goals for living, and it orients him. And thank God, it maintains and sustains him. To base our teachings upon an evil presence, which I have a hard time doing, and inner corruption, of course, is to increase the weakness of man. Whereas to emphasize that indwelling, transcendent power is to strengthen man. Not man over man, but man over himself. I am a spiritualist, and we have principles that we live by. And number 7 of our principles states that we make our own happiness or unhappiness. How simple is that? To make better persons. To make happier and more successful people. To make us healthier. To make us more resolved. And to help us determine which of our goals are worthy and which ones are not. Hopefully, our principles speak today's language. Hopefully they do. Hopefully it speaks to where we live today. These, my friends, are the days we live in. They are the best and the worst of times, so said Dixon. So let's look, all of us, with unjaundiced eyes, not skeptical or cynical, but with a real and deep understanding that there is a power, an interdwelling power, a higher power within us. And that, my friends, is what it is to practice the presence of God. We thank God that God is God. Think about that. We thank God that God is God. We thank God that we have the mind in us that we might be led to the discovery of that interdwelling power. We are it. It is us. He and me. And I am him. One of the things that we are called upon as ministers is to assist our constituents, our community, and the people who are in need of healing. That's what we do as ministers. Whether it's in the prison, whether it's in a neighborhood, whether it's in the church, in our homes. Now, I was a former superintendent for the Winter Park Church of Religious Science, and the minister, Dr. Roy Graves, he was one of my mentors. Dr. James Thomas is another mentor of mine. And he would share topics with me that would assist me in my own ministry that would come many years later. And this is his story, Dr. Roy Graves. There was a very, very, very sick little girl in a local hospital. And the parents had called the church and asked Dr. Roy Graves to assist and visit their little girl in the hospital and to pray for her. And Dr. Roy Graves was not accustomed to feeling discouraged. And when that little girl asked him if she would get better, he answered, "Yes, of course." So he went out to the parking lot, and a feeling passed over him, and he seemed to feel the weight of a spoken lie. The doctors had already stated that she was going to die. There was no hope, or little hope. And the medical staff had already made their verdict. He went back to the room, and he said to the little girl, "Now listen, pay attention. Not with your eyes, not with your ears, with your heart. Can you do that? Okay?" And she looked at him, and she said weakly, he said, "There are no tomorrows to God. There are no yesterdays to God. It is all one day. And there are no spaces in between. No light, no dark. It's all now. And it's all right with God. You have got to get better now in this place now. Right here and now, and not someplace else." And she looked at him. And she said, she asked, "Can I?" And he replied, "Not if you whine, not if you cry, and not if you think like a sick little girl. But if you think real hard about running and playing, walking and jumping, yes, you can. Can you do that?" He made it so very simple. She got it. She said, "Yes, I will." That little girl, my friends, that little girl is now a grown mother who rejoices in her own children who jump and play and walk and run. She credits her recovery to that one moment when a person caught hold of a spirit and let that spirit catch hold of her. accepting together the mighty presence and power of God, where healing took place. In Luke 1:37, for with God, nothing is impossible. And so it saith the word of God. I have a friend in Lake Helen, Dr. Susan Wilden. She does the fireside chats and metaphysics. Kathy, you have been there with me.
Oh, yes.
And it reminds me of a conversation I had with Dr. Susan Wilden. And she called and she said, Diane, you're going to chop my foot off. I went, no, you're not. She said, oh, that's what they said. I said, oh, whatever, but they're not. And Kathy, you know what she said to me. She said, well, I guess I better go to work. Later, about a week later, she called me. She said, Diane, you're not going to cut my foot off. I said, well, I knew that. I knew that. You know what, folks? I'm always impressed with such healing. Every manifestation of faith through prayer has been a logical result of some cause set in motion in the life principles. The simplicity of the healing process and the complexity of our belief in it. That child knew nothing about healing process. She knew nothing about it. She knew nothing about the tests that were taken. She knew nothing about the techniques, the equipment, the efforts to keep her alive. She knew nothing about it. But what she did know was the sadness and the sorrow in the eyes of her parents as they leaned over her bed and wrung their hands over and over. Will she make it? Will she not? Will she live? Will she not? Nothing had worked. And so they decided to try God and call a church and ask the minister to go visit her in her last hour. Only, you know, Dr. Roy Graves, this minister, didn't see it as last hour. It was Emerson who said, don't be fooled by the sight of a sick child. Those golden curls on that pillow are millions of years old. Life never quits. There's powerful help between you and me. You know, folks, and that's what we do when people come to Cassadaga for reading or healing, whether it's for a job or a frustration over a relationship or just plain frustration or health. There's only one thing that we can do. One thing, and that's that we stir up the God within them. It's not us, it's them. We stir up the God within them. And that's why I say, we have the healing capacity within all of us. I receive a number of publications, as many as you do, on a regular basis, and one of them had a very interesting story about the drive to live. There was a man, and he was working in his yard, just working so hard, I mean, he had sweat, working up a sweat, just like Steve did yesterday at the Cassadaga, working up a sweat. And he decided to have a cold beer, which Steve didn't. But this guy worked up a sweat, and he wanted to have a cold beer. And so he sat down and he saw a bee on the chair next to him. He swats the bee. The bee didn't move. So he decided that's it. Slammed the bee. So that would be the end of the bee. So he's having to call the bear. Oh, that bear was, ooh, gosh. It was. When he noticed that the dirt was moving, where the bee was. And slowly, the bee comes out of the dirt. Slowly. Takes his time, but in a few minutes, he's back again. Flies back to the chair where the man was sitting, next to where the man was sitting, and irritated this man so much that he decided to really swat the bee. So it would never come back. Right? He did really swatted it this time. Oh man, he's enjoying that beer. It was really cold. Oh, that beer was so good. Oh, it felt so good. And then the earth opened up again. where the bee was supposed to be. And he saw a little black glob. Didn't look like a bee, but it was a bee. It just looked like a black blob with all kinds of pieces sticking out of it. So he got on his knee. And he's looking at this bee. He's watching this glob. And it just kind of went back and forth. It just flopped back and forth. And back and forth. Got up, fell down. And then this bee emitted a white liquid. It's kind of bluish, kind of glue-like. And the bee used the glue to fix his wings. Took him a while. Took him a long time. Man's watching us. The bee was still disoriented. Man just watched this fantastic occurrence. Then the bee flew away. The wonder of the capacity of the self to heal. The magic is that the bee knew what to do with his broken wing. We must always remember that things happen in God's time and not ours. I want to share a story from one of the best series of books in the world. It's called Chicken Soup. And the story is from the book of the Chicken Soup, and the story is called The Tablecloth. And I want to read this story. Somebody said there are no hopeless situations, there are only people have grown hopeless about them. A young minister had been called to serve in an old church that one time had been a magnificent building in a wealthy part of town. Now the area was a state of decline, and the church was in bad shape. Nonetheless, the pastor and his wife were thrilled with the church, and they believed that they could restore it to its original magnificence. And when the minister took charge of this church early October 1948, he and his wife immediately went to restoring it, repairing, attempting to make it beautiful again. Their goal was to make it look the best it ever could be for Christmas Eve. Just 2 days before Christmas, however, a storm swept through the area, dumping more than an inch of rain. And the roof of the old church sprung a leak just behind the altar. The plaster soaked up the water as if it were a sponge and then crumbled, leaving a gaping hole in the wall. Dejected, the pastor and his wife just looked at this wall. There was obviously no way to repair it before Christmas Eve. Nearly 3 months of hard labor and work had been washed away. Yet, this young couple, they accepted the damage as God's will and set about cleaning up all this debris. It was a depressed minister and his wife who attended a benefit auction run by the young youth group that afternoon, and one of the items put up for bid was an old gold and ivory colored lace tablecloth, nearly 15 feet long. Well, seized with inspiration, the pastor was the highest bidder at $6.50, and his idea was to hang the ornate cloth behind the altar to cover the ragged hole in the wall. On the day before Christmas, snowflakes mingled with the howling wind, and as the pastor unlocked the church doors, he noticed an older woman standing at the nearby bus stop. It was so cold out. He knew that the bus wouldn't be there for another half hour, so he invited her to please come into church until the bus comes in half an hour. She wasn't from the neighborhood. She explained she had been in the area to be interviewed for a job as a governess for children of a wealthy family, and she had been a war refugee. Her English was poor, so she didn't get the job. Head bowed in prayer, she sat in a pew near the back of the church. She paid no attention to the pastor who was hanging the tablecloth around the sightly hole, and when the woman looked up, she saw the cloth and she blushed up. She said, "That's mine. It's my banquet cloth. That's mine." And he was like, "Whoa." Excitedly, she told the minister its history and even showed him her initials on the cloth. She and her husband had lived in Vienna, Austria, and had opposed the Nazis after the Second World War. And they decided to flee to Switzerland, but her husband said they must go separately. She left first. Later, she learned that he had died in a concentration camp. Touched by her story, the minister insisted she take the cloth. She thought about it and said no, she didn't need it any longer. It did look pretty good hanging up there. So she said goodbye, left, got on the bus. In the candlelight of the Christmas Eve service, that tablecloth looked even more magnificent. The white legs seemed dazzling in the flickering light of the candles, and the golden threads woven through were like brilliant rays of the new dawn. And as members of the congregation left the church, they complimented the pastor on the service and how beautiful the church looked. One older gentleman lingered, admiring the tablecloth. And as he was leaving, he said, "You know, it's strange. Many years ago, my wife, God rest her soul, I know she's passed. I owned such a tablecloth. She used it only for very special occasions. See, we lived in Vienna then, and, well, folks, the night air was freezing, but the goosebumps on the pastor's skin was not caused by the weather." As calmly as he could, he told the man about the woman who had been to church that very afternoon. "Oh my, could it be, gasped the old man. That she's still alive? How can I find her?" The pastor remembered the name of the family who had interviewed the woman with a trembling old man at his side. He telephoned the family and learned her name and address. In the pastor's old car, they drove to her home on the other side of town. Together, they knocked on her apartment door, and when she opened it, the pastor witnessed the tearful, joyful, thrilling reunion of a husband and wife. Some people now would call this extremely lucky chance happening, the result of a hole in the wall, an old tablecloth, the pastor's ingenuity of solving a problem, and so on. But the combination of events, my friends, was so far too complex for it to have been merely a coincidence. If one link in the fragile chain of events had been broken, the husband and wife might never have been found. If the rain hadn't come, if the church roof hadn't leaked, if the pastor hadn't decided to go to the auction, if the woman hadn't been looking for a job or standing on the corner at just the right time, the list of this is virtually endless. It was simply God's will. And as has been said many times, God works in mysterious ways. The mind is a magnet, so said Ernest Holmes. Sometimes our thought patterns cling to us with such tenacity. You must have the faith in something greater than your previous experience. We need to see through the confusion into peace. And we need to see from sickness into health. And we need to go from poverty to abundance. Steve? And we need to trust in God and to be at peace. So I leave you with the following thought. Wonder will happen in your life when your inner thoughts and feelings agree with the words of your mouth.